Well, welcome everyone to our quarterly BayICT partnership meeting. I'm going to give us a few minutes for people to join us. In the meantime, as you come in, if you would in chat, put your name, affiliation, and title. That will be our means of doing introductions. Okay. And I'm going to get ready for sharing here. Okay. There we go. Right. But I'll wait to start sharing till we get folk in. Myra, welcome. I am going to kick off the meeting with some announcements. So we'll do that. And then while people are joining, I won't post the agenda, but basically what we want to do today is, well, it's been a while since we've all got together. And there were a couple of members that I talked to that had some things going on that I think we want to kick off with that share. And if I didn't talk to you and you have something to share, announcements and things that your organization is doing relative to workforce development, we definitely would like to hear about that. And when we get to that point, I'll show you why that really helps with our collaborations. And then I've had a lot of fun the last couple of days doing some research on just what is happening in the tech landscape these days and what it really means to us that are doing, workforce development, as a partnership between the community-based organizations, our employers, industry, and our community community-based organizations. And then I'm going to close it with just 3 questions. After we've talked, I just kind of shared, given some background on the landscape. 3 questions about how this is might be impacting you and the work that your organization is doing, if not, how it's changing, impacting or causing you to pivot in any way, if at all. And then again, how we can, as the whole purpose of this work of the partnership, how we can collaborate, how we can share information and support each other. So let me go ahead and get started because I do want to leave as much time as possible for that conversation. I'm going to go into slideshow. All right, so I just went over the agenda. We'll jump right in here. So let's start. I want to start again, as I said, with some announcements, and then we'll have my probably 10-15 minutes it will take me to go over to some of the things that I came up with looking at understanding really what's going on with all of these layoffs and even some of how it may be impacting organizations outside of our sector. And then a discussion, how we can collaborate, what's going on, and if maybe we will identify some opportunities for us to work together as we make any pivots that we think we might want to do. All right, so here's that section, news you can lose. Myra, let's start with what you wanted to share.
Sure. So we are going to be running educator boot camps in April, and our registration is currently open. We'll drop a link in the chat in a minute. But the boot camp is going to run, it's an ML boot camp meant to level set educators' knowledge of AI ML, and it's open to all educators in the Bay Area. It starts April 15th and it runs through the 29th. I'm going to copy and paste the schedule because it is in the evening. Educators who go through the boot camp and successfully complete it receive a stipend of $1,200, and they also qualify for CEU credits. So the schedule is here. I'm going to post a link to register for the boot camp. Again, this is an AI ML boot camp aimed at level setting educator knowledge of AI ML. And we're targeting educators that teach in CS, IT, IS, data science. If you're a math teacher also, you're interested, you do have to have some basic Python programming knowledge. You don't need to be proficient or have like extensive knowledge in it, but it is helpful to have that Python background.
I posted the registration link, so don't worry about finding that.
Thank you. And we also have, we have started our community of practice. So Monica, can you put our landing page also in the chat? So we have a landing page where you can register for a newsletter, and we keep you up to date on the events, because we are hosting monthly webinars with our AI ML data scientists, and also with community members from our community of practice on AI ML topics. Monica runs those. We have a full schedule on that also. Yeah, lots of good stuff. We're launching 2 ML courses in Academy. And so Monica and I are also working with institutions that are interested in launching a course or a full program of study based on AI ML. So if you're interested, reach out to us. I'm your main contact. I'll put my email in the chat. Any questions? I know it was a lot really quick.
Alex, you got your hand up. Is that a question, or you got an announcement for us too?
I was just queuing up in line for an announcement.
All right, great.
Myra has to share.
Great. Any questions for Myra?
No, just thanks. Just thanks. Heartfelt thanks, Myra. This is really helpful and good stuff.
Yeah, thank you. I'm looking forward to having educators participate. So share it within your institutions. Laney College has already participated in, has had educators participating in the boot camp. And so we still have space for educators, and we're running the boot camps in June, July, and July again also.
Great. Thank you. Thank you again. Alex.
Thank you, Olivia. So I just wanted to share a quick update on what's happening at College of San Mateo. I'm really, it's perfect to follow Myra, through that AWS lens. So we've now launched our 5th training cohort for Cloud Foundations AWS certification. This will be over, once we complete this cohort, over 100 students have been trained, and they're now pursuing their certification, so finishing the exam. Many already have, and that's thanks to all of the work that Olivia, Ray, and Myra have supported throughout this whole time. So I just wanted to send out a big thank you, and lots more to come. Actually, next we're offering the architect training over the summer, so we're really excited about that.
Wow, that segued perfectly. That's great. Excellent. All right. Anyone else? Well, I'd like to share an example of, again, the kind of announcements and things that we can share, about things that we're doing. Unfortunately, I just learned about this one yesterday, which happened this morning, but the East Bay IATC, is Darlene on the line? Anyway, they had this wonderful job fair.
I'm here.
There you are. And this is an example, again, if we can begin to share information about these kind of opportunities, not only for our faculty, but for our students and our skill builders. Darlene, you want to tell the folks just really quickly what the East Bay IATC is all about, and if you're going to continue to do these types of job fairs?
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for having me, Olivia. The East Bay Interagency Training Council, BayICT, is a collaborative organization made up of workforce development professionals, community training providers, industry representatives, and we have a number of different action teams. Student advisory action team is currently forming so we can get the students' input. We can't have these trainings without an output, right? Getting them to the employer. So that's why we have the employer outreach team, and they are responsible for putting together this event. And it was a very good event turnout. It was intended to be 8 employers. We had, I think, 10 and 1 community provider, Renaissance Entrepreneurship Center was able to sneak in there with us, and it was a very good event. We are planning another mini tech career fair event. We were talking about maybe late June and would like to coordinate with those in the community to do a larger event, maybe around September, which would be a hands-on technology, career, and resource fair. So that would be a collaborative of all of us. So this is all about finding connecting points, learning how to leverage from each other and sharing those resources so that our community can benefit. We do meet the first Friday from 11:30 to 1 for the core team, and we welcome any guests who would like to join us, or we can connect you to our community partnership action team lead. So thank you.
Thank you. And I think one of the things that what I think most of you may be familiar with our BayICT website. We really welcome this kind of information to share on our upcoming events. The audience for this is not just the partnership. It is our faculty, is our students, it's our programs, it's our job developers. So again, take advantage, let us know when these events or these programs, these trainings are going on, because we do post them. We also, here are some examples of the types of events that we have recorded and partnerships that we have. So, I mean, there's really a lot going on in our space, but we really would like to extend sharing and getting this information out to the wider audience. So it's not only, and we also just be aware we have student opportunities here too. So these are things that you can share. Like we keep we try to keep a current log of things like, for instance, I've been working on internships. So anyway, I just want to make sure that you remember that this is something that you can take advantage of. We also have project sites for a lot of there are two major projects that our team is working on. This is how we're in collaboration with Myra and AWS, is that they're part of our AI and data analytics project, which is creating a center of excellence for AI and data analytics, machine learning at Laney, but there are several other college partners there. We have industry partners involved. These are things that you may be interested in. And then the other project that we have going on is related to a new area of emerging job opportunities, and that's in virtual production. If you're not familiar with the term virtual production, that is the way that a lot of our movies are being made today. For instance, like Mandalorian, this is the way films are being made. And so now there's an increasing need for people that can work in these areas. So anyway, those are some of the things that are going on. These are the audiences that we can reach out to. So please do take advantage of that. So let's talk about the layoff landscape. It's been really sensationalized because of the number of jobs that have been lost starting last fall, summer, the layoffs began. But the question is this really a bellwether of things that are coming, or is this a correction? It's really looking like a correction, okay? Tech is not in trouble. It went on a hiring binge during the pandemic. So now the companies are getting, a lot of pressure from their investors to scale back. And one of the things I found when I was doing the research here is that the average time on the job of the people that have been laid off is 2.5 years. That means that most of these people were hired during the pandemic. Okay. And and there's a source here. I can share these slides too if you're interested. But I think one of the things is that it's really showing is that they're really correcting. Okay, because the traditional what I mean by traditional industries, I'm talking about non-tech. Retail, finance, services. They all still need tech people. And so, Google's loss is Walmart's gain, because every company nowadays is a tech company. The big concern that we have is, will they see the tech layoffs as a bellwether and hunker down and stop hiring? That's what we don't know. Even though they need and can take advantage of the people that are being laid, take advantage of trying to hire the people that are being laid off from the tech companies, they may also slow down too. We really don't know. That's the uncertainty. And here's a table that shows you really why so many of these, look at the growth that happened during the pandemic. I mean, Twitter dropped, they hired, almost double, hired, a third of the size of the company, but they ended up laying off, 4,000. Now that probably has a lot to do with, the new owner. But anyway, they had the biggest hit. But if you notice, these are people these were new employees that were added during the pandemic. Apple was the only one. My screen is being blocked here, but Apple was the only one that has yet to do any layoffs. But it's pretty significant when you look at how many people they hired and then how many that they're laying off. So who's getting laid off? Well, that's the other thing too that I think is kind of a misperception, is that it's not a lot of tech people. It's HR and talent sourcing. It's marketing. It's sales. Now, there's a concern here that customer success is in that list here, because that's where a lot of the programs that we prepare our students for as far as support, et cetera, but they're being laid off. PR, communications, and strategy. And unfortunately, DEI, because DEI initiatives usually fall under HR. And it's interesting that the other thing that I found is that some of the positions that might be considered technical, the companies are citing AI and the use of AI as the reason why they can let some of the people go. They're using, the increasing use in some of our products, Mary, you and I were talking about that before the call. If you can integrate, if you can integrate AI in your processes, you're going to have more productivity for people, and therefore you may have, a decreased need for some roles. But these are the top roles being laid off. Okay, across all the industries, 19% of those layoffs or roles being laid off were part of DEI initiatives. And that's unfortunate. We had a reckoning during the summer of 20 to do something about, we had a racial reckoning around, wanting to do something about increasing diversity, inclusion, and all across the board in all organizations. And sometimes like marketing, I've seen this in cycles. I mean, HR initiatives seems like marketing, they tend to take the hit. And so it's unfortunate that we're seeing companies now not really, walk the talk around DEI. And unfortunately, when people, again, in this layoff cycle, the people most impacted, have been, the recently hired, first in, first out, just like the 2.5 years people hired during the pandemic. Women are being impacted more than men, and older workers. They tend to be layoffs by position as opposed to doing any assessment of the role or the people doing the job, unfortunately.
I have a question. Hi, Ginger with Bitwise Industries. Nice to meet you all. So 2.5 years, maybe with that organization, or do you think that's junior talent? You're saying 2.5 years, perhaps in the workforce. Was there that distinction or no?
Yes, there was a distinction. It was 2.5 years with that company.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So there's still a talent shortage. I mean, there's still a need for tech talent. And in this report from Manpower, it's at a 16-year high in 2022. And so the few people, the techies that are being laid off, they tend to be more from startup, smaller companies versus the larger companies. But 8 out of 10 of them are finding a job within 3 months. So these folks, the full stack developers, data engineers, cloud engineers, these folks are not, first of all, few of them are being laid off, and they're getting jobs right away. So but again, these are often, for a lot of the programs that we support, a lot of these are not within, we don't prepare, like cloud engineers, data engineers. We have some full stack developer programs. A lot of our programs do prepare some folk for back-end development. I know that Bitwise definitely does a lot of that. And as Myra says, we have programs that we're starting to prepare people to be machine learning engineers, but these tend to be programs that take a while, as opposed to a lot of the things that we're doing are related to entry-level jobs. So I think the other thing that we need to consider is the whole change in the nature of work post-pandemic. And the interesting thing that I found is that, well, how are companies changing, and as far as their technology and the roles that they're hiring to support that technology. On the top of the list was improved cybersecurity. When you have so many people working from home, cybersecurity becomes very, very important. Also, managing the IT services, those folks, you have a much more higher need for that when you have people working from home. We talked about automating processes. A lot of companies are starting to use AI and things like ServiceNow and other products and platforms to automate processes. A lot of work and decision making is being data driven now, so data analytics becomes important. And all of this technology obviously is around, reducing operational costs. We heard during the pandemic or post-pandemic, we heard a lot about quiet quitting, people doing the minimum, in their jobs. And now there is I found a term called, a lot of organizations post-pandemic are doing quiet hiring. And basically, that's another term for internal skill building. So they're looking at how they can increase or improve or diversify the skills of their internal employees. And the article that I read mentioned that that companies that are doing that are doing it in partnership with schools, with apprenticeships, with training providers. So there's opportunities there. The other good news that I saw was that they're looking at non-traditional pipelines. They're finally starting to get it that you don't need bachelor's degrees. You don't have to insist upon, a certain certain skills as the qualifications, that they're looking more at, the what we call, people that have taken alternative routes to their training as far as getting into some of these jobs. So I think these are the post-pandemic nature of work, combined with the types of jobs and needs that employers still have, that this isn't really a bad thing. There's some opportunities. There are opportunities. So anyway, this was a lot of fun for me putting together. I'd really be glad. I have a lot of notes in the slides. If you really want to see some of the articles, when I do the report for this meeting, I will certainly be glad to share it with you. So I went through that very quickly because I have these 3 questions that I would take us into a discussion. I'd like to hear what your thoughts are about these trends, and if they are and have all impacting you. First of all, if you are hiring, are you involved, or if you are involved with placing, students and skill builders, how is this, what are you seeing? How is that impacting you? And then if you are on the training or workforce development side, how is this change? How is this shifting landscape, impacting you? And then finally, as we kicked off the meeting, what are some of the opportunities to collaborate within this partnership? So I'm going to stop sharing. And
this is Myra. I have a question. Are you working with our Skills to Jobs team? Do you know if any of your schools are?
I'm not aware of it. Ray?
What do you mean by skilled jobs?
So there is a team, they used to be called Education to Workforce, they're now Skills to Job. I believe your contact is Ron Blanchard. I want to know if any of you are working with him just now on that. Okay, let me reach out to him. I want to find out what, if I can connect him with you all to see how he can help you. So they are focusing on helping institutions identify skills across, I think they have like 7 different disciplines. It does not include AI ML, but it's like cybersecurity, programming, cloud engineering, and then also helping to make connections with employers. So I think that, let me reach out to him. So I just wanted to know if that was happening or not.
That'd be great. I'd love to get the lead. The big project we've been working on recently, new project, is on the infrastructure side of the internet. So, you know, we talk about these layoffs. Internet infrastructure is growing 20% year over year right now. And yeah, that's down from 39%, but it's still pretty healthy. And so when you look at the careers that are associated with building the infrastructure of the internet, data centers, it's uninterruptible power. It's huge banks of batteries. It's HVAC to cool off racks and racks of servers. There's a whole bunch of jobs associated with creating and running the infrastructure side of the internet that aren't traditional tech jobs. So we've been trying to pay some attention to that, and that's Mike Berman that we've been working with on that. I think in Olivia, you just mentioned working across boundaries or collaborations and stuff. It's fascinating to have a 2-week workshop where one day they're going to the pipe trades and the next day they're going to digital realty data center. You know, it's just fascinating, the interactions among people. I think it's going to be great fun. And I think people are meeting and starting to understand worlds that they haven't traditionally bumped into. I'm not sure how many Amazon people have been to a union training center, for example. Myra.
I worked at one.
Mike's never been.
Yes, I used to work for the City of New York Department of Payments and Adjudication.
Oh, sure, yeah.
So I ran their metropolitan area network in New York for, I want to say 4 years.
Oh,
Yeah.
All union shop too.
Yep.
so any other thoughts or questions? I'd love to hear about, how, like this example that Ray shares is one way of addressing how it's the change in the landscape here. So any other questions or comments?
Olivia, I had a comment. Devin and I spoke with a couple of folks pretty much along these topics, and an observation, he was in HR at Cisco, and an observation he made was, though the high-tech companies are laying off people like the Googles and the Facebooks, companies like Target and Walmart, which have huge software infrastructures, they're actually not impacted as directly as our high-tech companies are. So, you have all General Mills, and they're all employers of the same kinds of skill in terms of what our students can offer. But definitely there's been a pullback, at least in the Silicon Valley companies, in terms of, are they thinking of hiring? Are they doing internships? So I'm wondering, if we can try and reach out to the non-tech companies who employ a huge number of tech skill.
And that is one of the things that I see that Steve Nelson's on the line. He's a job developer. One of the things that I don't think we've done a very good job of is reaching out to the tech organizations within non-tech companies to place our students. We tend to think that the tech skills that we're we're preparing our students and our skill builders for are to be in tech company. Being that I work in cybersecurity, so many of the students that I work for, they want to go work for a Splunk, or they want to go work for a Palo Alto Networks, where their skills could be used by, Walmart or the banks, or et cetera. But how do we, we really need to do a better job of reaching out to that. Now, I looked at that list of people that Darlene had on her employers list. Those are the time of contacts that I think that we connections that we need to make. And I think our workforce development partners can help us do that. Right.
Well, I wanted to speak to that, Olivia. Can you guys hear me okay? I have some really bad earphones here. So we're doing these mini tech career fairs as a test of the waters, so to speak. With all of the layoffs, everything that's happening, we wanted to do something small and intimate and get an idea of who is actually hiring. So this event was intended to only invite people that are actually hiring, not pulling applicants, not, just sharing their name, but they are hiring people. They have job openings. So what we found, and then talking with employers. So Berkeley Labs couldn't be here today because there's another big event that's happening somewhere else. But they had mentioned, and along with Lawrence Livermore Labs, the cybersecurity focus that they have are now on graduate students. I don't know why, I haven't engaged that much further, but they're looking to hire students that are graduate level students for their cybersecurity program. We were looking at developing an apprenticeship pathway, but so for right now, we're just only focused on the IT help desk, IT project management, those types of opportunities instead of cybersecurity with that particular, employer. So I would like to learn more about that and what the, what is the discussion among employers about hiring 2-year students into cybersecurity, or is the only way for them to move into cybersecurity through the IT help desk and then transfer over? I'd like to learn more about that. But I think that from this event today, you looking at the government, city and county of San Francisco, you're looking at FEMA and those types of organizations, the Environmental Protection Agency, they have a lot of funding due to the current administration, and what are the hiring pathways? And so those are the types of employers that we're now looking at, as opposed to the venture funded startups and things like that. And even with those, we don't see all the layoffs that are happening. So there's a lot of people that are being laid off, but sometimes they'll lay them off to meet their numbers and then hire people back as 1099 contractors or outsource it to another place. So that's another thing that I've noticed. And, so that's what I've experienced so far. I haven't did a survey or anything like that. These are just my casual conversations and reaching out to employers from a workforce development perspective.
Well, I'd definitely like to talk to you more about the cybersecurity dilemma. We have a kind of like a sad joke that we say that, to get an entry-level job in cybersecurity, you have to have at least 5 years of experience. It's crazy. But, I think one of the things that we're seeing is that, and I take us back to that whole quiet hiring approach or strategy, is that a lot of the people that move into cybersecurity start in IT support. They start in network support because they start in what's called security operations centers. And they're really just a sub department of your whole IT operations and support. Why not train those people either as apprenticeships or partnerships with workforce development on the skills that those organizations think that they need from a graduate student? Because I think the cybersecurity area is probably of those, thousands of unfilled jobs. A lot of them are in cybersecurity, but I think the people that hire in that arena still have that concept that they need somebody with a master's degree at a minimum of bachelor's. And it's just not the case. When you talk to a lot of the people that are working today in cybersecurity, they don't have those credentials. They work themselves up through the organization. So yeah, I'd love to talk to you about that. I think there's apprenticeships, lots of apprenticeship programs for cybersecurity, and training, side training for industry certifications that we might be able to partner with. But
absolutely. And we have, we're testing some models. So right now we have a program here in the county. It's the CalWorks Public Service Trainee Program. We have 3 people that are being trained through Love Never Fails in collaboration with the co-enrollment at Merit. And they are paid $25 an hour. I forget the exact title, clerks or whatever, but we have negotiated with the ITD department here to take them on for a 9-month internship. And then that is opening the door. We have the director of the agency in support of apprenticeship. That's opening the door. So hopefully next year we can grow that number of students that can come in and learn as they earn, and hopefully to develop the apprenticeships. And we're actually working with Bitwise as well to collaborate with them as our state and federally approved apprenticeship provider, knowing that they do also hire directly. And so we're just trying to build these partnerships. And I'm really glad that you offer this forum so that people like me can better understand the landscape at a larger level. Thank you.
Yeah. So it sounds like, I think the last time I checked in with Bitwise, you were in the process of finalizing a registered apprenticeship. Are you there? Is that being completed? I think we had someone from Bitwise with us.
Yeah, they're registered for sure, but there's someone on here from Bitwise. We're working with Sandy and Tina Robertson. Those are the people that we're working with and out of the Oakland office. But but love to meet you too, Ginger. Thank you.
I'd love to meet you too. I'm not sure your name comes up as Olivia. You're not Olivia.
Oh yeah, sorry. I shared my link with Darlene, and it looks like Dan shared his with Maya. Yeah. So
it's Maya though. It's Maya.
Everybody's starting to duplicate. Now we've got
I know.
Nelson.
Right. So Ginger,
Yes.
you're from Bitwise?
I am, yeah.
Do you want to give us an update on your apprenticeships and
Sure.
what's going on?
Sure. So we're in an interesting space where when there's a downturn in the economy or a pandemic, we thrive. We have people coming from all sorts of industries saying, wow, now's a great time to learn something new, to go into an apprenticeship program. So we thrived through the pandemic, both by ways of funding and also quantity of apprentices coming in. We just opened up our 8th city in Chicago, El Paso and Las Cruces, and Greeley, Colorado will also be coming up soon. And we'll have 10 cities that we're running our apprenticeships in. So we are also, of course, thinking about the graduates. We can't hire all of them. So as my role, VP of Partnerships with the Salesforce practice that we're developing, we definitely are gaining more and more customers, our tech services and Salesforce practice. But again, we can't, of course, hire all our apprentices that graduate. So we're also looking for terrific companies. I love the idea of non-tech companies, technical jobs in non-tech companies within the Salesforce ecosystem. And a host of we're developing partnerships in many other areas to be able to, place them in terrific positions.
Like, how do we reach out to like the Targets or the General Mills, these big companies, which we know have large infrastructures and similar needs, or banks. Like when I go and look on it on job sites, it's kind of hard to get there. If you don't know.
I like to think about who the population is that you're serving. For us, our population is definitely the underrepresented. We
Yes.
try to keep them in the Bitwise cities, where they went through the apprenticeship to feed that economy. So I try to approach it from that standpoint. So, going through DEI, going through HR, really to get a landscape of what's happening in that company, who is attractive to them, who are they hiring, just so I can make sure it's a good fit, both on mission alignment and, good fit for that person, the culture, their skill level. We're turning out, our practitioners are junior Salesforce admins. Some of them will have 6 months to 12 months of experience working in pods on real projects, but they're still, quite junior. So
Hey, Ginger,
yeah.
if you looked at where your graduates land on jobs, if you divide the Salesforce universe up into two categories, companies that are running Salesforce and supporting it themselves, and then this huge number of systems integrators who are building and supporting Salesforce implementations for other companies, smaller companies maybe. What would you say the proportion is between those two destinations?
We're reflecting each other, but I would say this way, the customer is
which way
using
is that?
Salesforce. Yeah, the customer is using Salesforce, that ecosystem, I would say.
Okay. So bigger companies.
Big and small, but the users of Salesforce. So we have a talent development partner department within the Salesforce practice. So they'll start working with a Salesforce customer. They'll be on their team. Maybe they'll hire them at the end of the project or convert them during the project.
Very cool. Very cool.
But it's a good question about those big companies, those big machines, those monsters, to find the right person to talk to. That's challenging. That is.
But that really sounds like something that we should, a strategy or a priority that I think that we need to make a shift toward is that finding, as you said, finding those tech jobs in the non-tech companies. I saw another hand up.
Yeah, I had my hand up. I wanted to find out if from Ginger, I didn't read it directly, but I had heard that Salesforce also had some layoffs, and I was wondering if that had any impact on your relationship with them for the apprenticeship program.
It's a long answer to a short question. I'll say no, generally no, not to our apprenticeship, but the layoffs were really interesting. They did 3 rounds of layoffs. I came from Salesforce, by the way, before Bitwise. They had 3 rounds of layoffs, and they laid off that sector that you were talking about, Olivia, this people that were hired during the pandemic, but then they hired off very senior people too. They took a top layer of product managers and people specific to the Salesforce.org organization. And that's not because of the pandemic, really because this acquisition into Salesforce.com, they continued with that role into Salesforce.com and just, they had duplicate positions.org.com. And so they absorbed those, and that just kind of happened to happen during these layoffs too. Impact to us, no, it's a huge ecosystem. Salesforce is still going to create, 9.3 million new jobs before 2026. I mean, we're not concerned from that standpoint, but, sad about the people that were laid off.
Thank you.
A lot of industry experts. Yeah.
Any other thoughts? Steve, while you were going back and forth between your phone or whatever you were on, I wanted to, get your thoughts on, you've been doing job development now for our students now for what, 4 years, 4 or 5 years?
Yeah, five and a half.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
tell me, looking for tech jobs and non-tech companies, has that been, what's been your experience with that?
Not too good with those particular employers, because a lot of them have the bachelor's degree limit. It starts with that. And, there's obviously the challenge of, if you want to take it up, of trying to get them to lower that, right? We just had some success with that with PG&E. Supposedly, they're going to look at our cyber students and not require that they have a bachelor's degree for some of those SOC positions. We did another field trip, Olivia, to PG&E just 2 weeks ago. And I mean, it was amazing. They had every special group in the SOC was, they had at least 2 people there, and they were telling the students exactly what they did and what applications they use. And it's pretty amazing. And, you know, I had a conversation with them before, you know, we even decided to do it again was, you know, I don't want to bring these students here if there's no chance in hell of them getting the job because they don't have bachelor's degrees, right? And they said they were totally loosening up on that. And after that event, I got, you know, a couple of cybersecurity jobs sent to me that did not require bachelor's degrees. And they were entry-level SOC jobs, right? Entry-level SOC, though, is higher than you would imagine in terms of skills. You know, students had to know, they didn't have to know how to, you know, code in C++, but they had to know Linux, they had to know some PowerShell, they had to know Python, and they had to know a little bit how to use network monitoring systems, right? And then the Windows system internals. And that's, you know, that's the highest level hacking classes we have at City College, you know, the top of the stack. And they don't even have some of those at bachelor's degree or even master's degree programs. And, but they need those students to know a little bit about that stuff. So I hope it works out. I have a whole bunch of students who applied. We haven't had any interviews even yet. And so we'll see how far it goes. But, you know, we have had people hired there before, but they all had bachelors. Yeah. So, and, you know, it's funny, you know, you were talking about the companies stopping hiring, and we've had an interesting opportunity. It's a bit of a story. When I had my first big job fair in the fall of last year, I had 33 students apply for jobs, and most of them are managed service IT providers. And I'm used to getting a good 7 to 10 hires, solid hires out of a job fair like that. I got none, not one. All right. And I was pretty miffed about that. And thank God we had Lawrence Berkeley Labs, who's been taking a steady flow of our interns for a long time now, and has been taking more and taking them with less restrictions. And that's kind of saved that aspect of my job, the IT placement job part. And but what we did this starting at the end of last semester and then just this semester is all those IT employers, we offered to pay half the interns' wages, at least for the students who get financial aid, with the Learning Aligned Employment Program fund money, right? So we just started doing this. I approached, I think, 9 of my employers, the most steady ones, at least they had been in the past. And I think right now we have 5 solid commitments, you know, 3 full sets of signed paperwork, and a few others where we're deciding, do we even need to reach out to them? Okay. Now, we don't know if we're going to be able to get financial aid students to take up all those positions. That's our worry now. Do we have too many positions, too many employers for who we can get? But I was really surprised by if you pay 50% of the wages, or if it's a nonprofit, you pay 90%. They all, for the most part, say yes. You know, and it really, and they're really excited to do it. You know, I'm not saying it's going to be a smashing success, because we have to find those students and get them in, and it's turning out to be a bit of a task. But you know, the monetary thing really seems to be make a huge difference. You know, subsidizing wage subsidy for the internships, and I have a just a simple saying is, the only students who get jobs are the ones in IT are the ones who've had internships, right? In my opinion, in my experience. And so, those internships are golden. And every community college has that funding.
Yeah.
And usually one good sized community college in each city, and yeah, it's something to think about. If maybe you're not getting jobs, but you can get internships that could very easily lead to jobs.
Stephen, what are the kinds of companies who are willing to do the sharing of, like, with the internship subsidies, were then willing to offer? Like, what are the profiles of them? Are they big, small, startup?
Small to medium sized managed service providers. And we do have a university institution that has agreed as of yesterday to partner with us, which but no, we haven't really reached out to large businesses that are not into IT, or even large businesses, period. It's when I say small to medium size, I'm talking probably 15 to 80 employees for an MSP.
And who's an example of an MSP? Like
Who's an example? Professional computer support, Parachute, Cobalt, IT. I'm not giving them all to you. I'm saving some. That's why I'm having a hard time coming up.
No, I'm not asking with that intent.
I know. I'm
because
just
I went, because when I talk to a bunch of like large companies,
yeah.
The current climate, they just put a hold on internships. The scuttlebutt I hear is department by department, they are allowing people to hire interns, but then it happens on the quiet.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that doesn't help us in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
So this idea of this offering a subsidy or having somebody share the cost of an intern, and so now the group that this foundation I work with has started talking to our startups, and we'll see whether they respond when we say, like, yeah, we can offer some subsidies if you offer the time for an intern. Make sure you look after them. Don't throw them in a corner and have them collate paper,
Yeah. Well, I've had some good internship placements at startups, but like you were saying, you have to make sure they're going to
do something.
They're going to do it right. They're not going to take advantage of anybody. I mean, I've heard some horror stories from students over the years.
Stephen, are you at the City College of San Francisco?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Well, I know that through the model that we're creating through the East Bay Interagency Training Council is completely grassroots. And right now we're focused on the East Bay side, but I've had some conversations with, some counterparts there in San Francisco as well. But we're looking at how to leverage the resources from all of our different departments. So those managed service providers are really good when we're doing our diversity outreach, formerly incarcerated, people that might otherwise not get hired directly on at a Google or wherever, right? But they have the skills, the aptitude, they pay their price already, and they're able to do the job. But we're leveraging the resources of our partnership. So probation, they have a program that pays a subsidy, right? We have the AC Hire program, which San Francisco has a similar program. I think San Francisco is better. I think it does 100%. We do 50% here, subsidy for 6 months to 9 months, so we could extend it. But we're looking at all these different resources, plus applying for funding opportunities. And so we're always looking to collaborate with others that can help support that. There's more power through collaborative efforts like this group here. And so one of those, I think, is the employment trainer provider funds to help support funding. And I actually learned about that program you just mentioned, the Learning Aligned Employment, through our partners there at Bitwise, looking at how to leverage those dollars to support students so that they stay in college and they don't get a job and then leave, right? And don't finish their education, only to be laid off down the line. So I think that's really good information that you've shared and how you've been able to navigate through that.
Yeah, well, I mean,
So-
we're just starting out with it.
Mhm.
We've tried a couple of different things that didn't all work out as well as we wanted them to. And we've learned a few lessons, like just in the last few months.
Mhm.
And it has to be run very carefully, and you got to get your workflow down, and you can't have too many people interacting with employers, and
Mhm.
and you got to get the eligibility right, and the eligibility is actually a little cloudy.
You
So
talking about the LAEP?
yeah,
Because that was in fact, that was a conversation, a meeting that we had on Tuesday. Is that, I mean, we're wondering why more of our colleges and programs are not taking advantage of that, and it sounds like they're starting it up can be a challenging. Is that what you're running into? Because it sounds like it's cracking the code for you as far as getting into your.
well, we are at the point where for IT, we are just, we've just finished signing up some employers, and we're meeting tomorrow morning to go over the workflow as to how to actually advertise and bring these students in. And financial aid offices involved, because these students are all receiving financial aid.
Is that a requirement of the LAIP?
Yeah.
Students be receiving
Yes,
financial aid?
they have to have a certain enough unmet need, so that unmet need money, for those of you who know the financial aid system, in order to be able to work that many dollar hours at a company. So if they don't have the unmet need, they cannot do it. Yeah, just some complexities, and you have to have a very cooperative data provider in your college. That department has to, want to work with you pretty well, because to get all those financial aid students identified, and then to find out what all their special qualities are, like, are they veterans, are they first generation, are they low income, are they foster youth, whatever, do they hit at least one of those categories? So who determines eligibility? That's a lot of work. The data part's a lot of work. Who does the financial aid eligibility is a lot of work. Who has them fill out the application is a lot of work. And, you have all these different departments that are getting a piece of it, and then coordinating those 4 or 5 departments. Yeah.
Yeah, and Stephen, the funding doesn't cover any of those extra. The funding covers the wage,
right?
But none of the infrastructure to enroll and deploy.
Correct.
To get that wage, which is that's a heavy lift for a college.
Yeah, and what was the other aspect of it I wanted to mention? Okay, there's another big aspect of it that's pretty challenging too. That'll come to me, but all those people have to be on the same page, and they have to be communicating, and they all have to kind of at some point interact with an employer, and it's not impossible, but it is a challenge. That's for sure. Yeah.
Belita, you had I'm sorry am I pronouncing your name right?
You actually did a perfect job, which is very rare. I don't have an easy name, obviously. Thank you so much. I just wanted to ask Stephen, my name is Belita Olchenbruns. I also work alongside Ginger for Bitwise in the workforce development section. And so I work closely with Tina in developing pathways from community colleges. And so LAPE is definitely one of the funding sources that we're hoping to be able to duplicate in many places, right? So for Stephen, my question is, when you source these students, how do you source these students? How do you advertise for this potential opportunity? And is there usually like a minimum requirement of CS coursework or something that you typically try to target before you put folks into work?
Yeah, they need to be half-time. And we can't really, advertise to all of the students in like a major, because about 80 to 85% of them are not going to be, at least for IT, are not going to be eligible for late. They're not receiving financial aid. Does that make sense? And so you have to like target them. And so we get the data folks to give us a list of those CNIT and CS, I mean the IT students and the computer science students who are receiving financial aid and who have some additional need or additional categorization that enables them to qualify, one of the demographic aspects. And they have to not have less than the amount of unmet need that they need to have in order to be paid the full amount of money for an internship that, makes sense, 3 months at 40 hours a week, 4.5 months at 20 hours a week. And that's a, by the time you winnow that all down, that's a small number of students.
Sure.
And 75% of our students are working 32 hours a week or more already. So it gets smaller. And so we'll be happy if we can place a few in each category. But that will be substantial, a few hires, maybe that pan out to hires over a lot of, when I say each category, I mean each employer. If you're talking about a whole bunch of employers, well, that's a fair amount.
Yeah, absolutely. And then they have to continue to stay enrolled. So I'm hoping that eventually we'll see the retention rate increase, right? To be able to be a part of this paid internship.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, we're 2 minutes beyond time, but I hear two key takeaways here from this meeting, and it's pretty much in alignment with the discussion prior to that, and that we need to figure out some strategies and approaches to finding tech jobs in non-tech companies, do a better job of that. I think there may be some opportunities that due to some restructuring of our BayICT organization, there may be some opportunities where we can get some cross partnerships with other sectors to identify some of those employers. And then I think the other thing that, and hearing that Steve has cracked the code relative to internships, and that is to subsidize those. LAEP sounds like it's challenging, but there could be other ways in which we find some funding to subsidize internships and apprenticeships. So I'm going to take those two as takeaways for us as far as the BayICT team to pursue. And I'll definitely be reaching out, at least to those of you who are on the call here, for other ways that we can work together, and not to wait till our next partnership meeting, but we can continue to have and explore the ways in which we, try to attack these two ways of going, getting our students hired, getting our students that we're all preparing into jobs. So thank you again for joining us today. I think this was a very, very productive conversation. If you had colleagues that might have wanted to hear some of these ideas, or if they hear it, they can share information with us. It will be recorded, and we'll get the report and kind of a summary out of the meeting to all of the partnership with, I would say, what is today's date? Is the 23rd. I think we can do it by the end of the month. So thank you again. So again, thank you so much. We have okay, Ray, got it.
Oh, no, you got time. I just, there's going to be people showing up in this room.
In this room.
In 10 minutes or so. You got plenty of time. Don't worry.
I know. Okay, yeah, just wanted to wrap up. Anyway, thank you all. Have a oh, Steve, you have another question?
The thing that I was trying to mention in regards to LAPE that was another significant challenge, in fact, a make or break one, is who is going to be employer of record. Some employers won't do it. Some educational institutions won't do it. But there are agencies out there that will, but they're going to charge almost 20%. And their name, one big one, is Career Catalyst. And that was hard to find. but we did, and it was hard to set it up, but we did. I just put that in the chat. Yeah. All right.
Good.
Sorry.
No,
Sorry to
that's
do that
okay.
at the
No, thank
end.
you. I think
Yeah.
this is all, I mean, like I said, we're exploring this, the BayICT team is exploring LEAP, and I think this was all good information, good input. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Olivia.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and thank you for joining us.
You too. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.